The China Report for Tuesday, May 14, 2013. For China's sex workers, abuse is routine. An industry that had all but disappeared after the People's Republic was founded in 1949 following the Communist Revolution has become widespread in China after 3 decades of economic reform and opening up, employing, according to a United Nations estimate, between 4 and 6 million people. Although ubiquitous in China today, the sex industry has become an increasingly unsafe profession, where sex workers are exposed to almost routine abuse even at the hands of law enforcement authorities, according to a new report published on Tuesday. The study, based on interviews with 75 women sex workers in Beijing, documents their lives and difficulties, detailing the abuse they face at the hands of police and the little recourse they have to justice. The sex industry in China, although illegal, has become widespread, often functioning with the tacit backing of local police officials. It is estimated that as much as 10 to 15% or more of the Chinese economy is derived from the so-called black market. The sex trade is a huge part of black market revenue. Shanty China. Western tourists who visit Beijing often remark on its lack of slums. Although it is home to 7 million migrant workers, the capital appears to be without the squalid shanty towns that pockmark or ring other developing cities, like Mumbai and Rio de Janeiro. Beijing does have slums, however only they are mostly hidden from view and, despite bleak living conditions, many of their residents are surprisingly hopeful. Some communities of slum dwellers are called rat tribes because they live in damp, dark rooms located in one-time air raid shelters and basements. Other migrant workers live in former villages that have been engulfed by the ever-expanding capital. Both types of slums are tolerated by the state. The government turns a blind eye because it needs a large migrant workforce to provide the cheap manpower behind China's astonishing urbanization. Whenever the slums become an eyesore, it simply tears them down and sells the land for development, forcing migrants to look further afield for housing. Taipei-Manila deadlock. Taiwan's Central Daily News expresses confidence that the dispute over fishing rights will be resolved bilaterally and urges Taipei to wait for the Philippines to respond to the ultimatum deadline today before stepping up pressure. However, China Times foresees little chance of the Philippines conducting a credible and impartial investigation or issuing an adequate formal apology. It urges the Taiwan government to seek international arbitration over the disputed waters and for the Navy to drive away or even destroy any Philippine vessels threatening Taiwanese fishermen if Manila fails to satisfy Taipei's demands. This looks to be a hot summer in Asia aside from the weather. Tensions are rising between multiple nations. Sexual revolution in China. The sexual revolution in the West was about self-expression and personal freedom. But in China, it's more restrained. It's a relaxation of sexual taboos from before, Xinhua quoted Berger as saying. During the Cultural Revolution just over 4 decades ago, China was seen as sexless, with men and women wearing gender-neutral clothing. Even holding hands in public was unimaginable. But since China's reform and opening up in 1978, the curtain has gradually been lifted. Sex education is often taught in terms of physiology or biology. There is little about sexual responsibility, contraception and women's right to refuse a sexual approach. One thing is for sure, in a nation of over 1 billion people, there are many leftover women and men who are more open to experimenting. How does this affect society and the wishes of overbearing parents who lived in a much different China? Only time will tell. That's the China Report for today. Zaijian.